All right, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com also video presentation. So, continuing the saga of Steve Mould and his really bad physics, okay, helped by minute physics. Okay, so I did use that image because it's, basically the minute physics guy basically said that clearly pulleys conserve momentum. So I have a half mass and a full mass. I can use pulleys to make the half mass go twice the speed with exactly the same 10 newtons that I make a full mass go one velocity. So a half mass goes two velocities, and a full mass goes one velocity with exactly the same energy, right? Newtons, the same number of newtons placed in. So they conserve momentum. And likewise, the implication is that levers are following exactly the same rule, like gears and other things. They're all conserving momentum. So if you're going to diagram something that's happening, the diagram has to include conservation of momentum. Now, I could play the Professor Lewin clip again. Um, yes, I could do that. It's probably right here somewhere. Anyway, I won't do it. All right, where he basically just says, okay, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or the other, but nature can't finagle momentum. So there's people actually think nature can finagle momentum. That is, you can actually lose momentum and not have any explanation for where it is. Like lose it not to heat or not to noise or not to something, just lose it. Yeah, they think that can happen. And the simple argument is, of course, it can't happen. And Newton wrote a third law describing what momentum does, equal and opposite, not what kinetic energy does. Kinetic energy doesn't do equal and opposite. All right, only if the masses are the same. In any circumstance where you have a bullet and a gun, for example, you won't conserve the kinetic energy. It will not be an equal and opposite reaction. Spaceship thrust. Oh, you can just go on and on. All right, so that's the argument. Now, apparently none of the people who watch this video, so if you've watched for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, I've really stressed you, right? Yes, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Oh my God. Yes, you've gone that far. It's an important subject, okay? You don't think it's a subject, it's really a subject. It's been a subject for 350 years in the background. And the fact is the evidence pool is dry as a bone. And that's the real problem. And there's just little indications, like I could show the Mythbusters doing car crashes, no indication of kinetic energy being real. And then you could show me some little air track thing, where they they don't know how springs work. So I'm going to explain springs again. And say, look, that shows that kinetic energy is conserved or something, And so, but it's all rickety, it's all weak physics, it's weak evidence, it's weak science. And that's what everybody should agree on, is that we need much better evidence. Yeah, because drawing conclusions based on this slop that exists, the 350 years, again, they've had 350 years to drop 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 feet in gravity. And see if 1 pound dropped 4 feet, that is 1 pound just going 2 velocity, equals 4 pounds going 1 velocity, which isn't the same momentum. I'll just point out it's twice as much momentum for the 4 pound object than for the 1 pound object. Twice as much momentum. And they think that's the same energy. So you can have twice as much momentum, but it's the same energy. And I'm saying that never happens either. It just can't happen. All right, it's not possible. So this all goes back to whether you understand that one atom going 1,000 miles an hour has the same capacity to spread its motion as 1,000 atoms going 1 mile an hour. If I were to bang them into little beads, they would make the little beads just as hot. And that's sort of the Joule thing that, again, you've totally misunderstood. Joule proved that you can turn all the energy into heat. And therefore, understand exactly how much energy something has, because you can just convert it all into heat, and then you know how much there was. And so those are the kind of experiments that need to be done. And they'll sort of prove that 8-pound bowling balls going 16 miles an hour don't have twice the energy of 16-pound balls going 8 miles an hour, because they have the same momentum, and they will make matter move. When you transfer it to pins, it'll give the pins the same momentum, okay, that the bowling balls had. It won't give them the same kinetic energy. All right. So, I don't know how many times you have to say this over, but it's a really important subject, and all of you defenders of science just couldn't care to get to the truth. You just couldn't care less. The truth is so irrelevant to you. All right. So, for the lesson for today, okay, I'll talk a little bit about the springs, and then talk a little bit about angular momentum, yeah, which is the same thing as regular momentum. It's just you have the word angular in front of it. Oh, God, this is just amazing. It amazes me. I just surprised at how dumb the world has gotten. Pitiful, awful, horrible. All right, so as I have pointed out, we can make this lever device that'll be very reliable, because we can use a spring, and we can create a lever that will, in two circumstances, we're going to create two different circumstances for it, right? We're going to put some tension on the spring, compress it, all right, and it's going to be a constant force, because we're going to make sure we pull this back exactly the same amount, okay, this, and then we're going to launch things with it. And the argument is, if I make this lever move exactly the same in both cases, that is, the spring moves exactly the same speed, the lever moves exactly the same speed, I can pretty much guarantee a conservation of momentum. So, and the obvious point to be made is I can put a 1 mass there, and I could put a half mass there, and what I'm going to get, okay, is that I do this experiment, I'm going to get, half the velocity that I'm going to get here. So I'm going to get 1 velocity here, I'll get 2 velocities here with the half mass. All right. And it will just decisively show that there is no 1.4 function, there's no square root of 2 nonsense, there's nothing that prohibits the momentum from being conserved. Okay, the 1 mass going 2 velocity is the same as the the half mass going 2 velocity is the same as the 1 mass going 1 velocity. That's the simple truth. And I can do that for 1 mass to a quarter mass, and I can just keep going out further and further, and those rules will always be maintained. All I have to do is multiply the distance times the size of the object, and if those two numbers equal, they will balance. If I put them on opposite sides of the fulcrum, and the fulcrum will be the same energy, will produce those motions. Now the trick with springs that ruins a lot of other experiments. See, the great thing is, in this experiment, if you use a spring this way, you can guarantee that you can get all the energy out of the spring, or most of it, except for the motion of the lever. You can guarantee that you can do 2 different experiments, and you won't, the results won't be corrupted by the fact that you're changing the variables, that the amount of friction will be different, or the amount of something will be different, causing an unfairness in the 2 comparisons. So you can eliminate that. So the problem with springs that I was never told, okay, no physics teacher told me these simple truths, is that if you're going to launch something with a spring, the catch is the spring has momentum. Let me make that much smaller. All right, the spring has momentum. So any energy that's left in it, that is, it oscillating after the object leaves, any oscillation in the spring means that's energy you didn't get into the object. And the simple explanation is if I made this 10 pounds and I made this 1 pound, something like that, a big comparison, the spring, after it pushes the 10 pounds, it's going to be going very slowly. And when the 10 pounds leaves the spring is barely going to oscillate. Okay, very little oscillation. So most all of the energy got into the 10-pound weight. Now with the lighter weight, okay, when the spring is pushing it, it's going to be pushing it 10 times faster. So the velocity is going to be 10 times the velocity. That means the spring is going to oscillate a whole lot more. I'll just use this arrow. So you're going to have a whole lot more oscillation in the spring that's launching the lighter object, which means it didn't give all of its energy away. It was still moving very fast. It still has a lot of momentum, and that momentum is going to oscillate inside the spring. So it's clearly obvious that, well, if I'm doing experiments and compare these two things, it's not going to be a fair experiment, because this one's going to get 90% or even 99% of the spring's energy will get into the object, and it'll only be like 80% or 70%. As I make the object lighter and lighter, I'm going to be able to get less and less momentum into the object, because the spring can't go as fast as it needs to push the object fast enough. The spring has a maximum velocity, and once I put an object that's light enough to be pushed that maximum velocity, I can't get it to go any faster. I can't put more energy into it, so I'm stuck with it left inside the spring. So the simple argument is, you can just understand it as these simple arrows indicating, obviously, the heavier the mass, the less the spring oscillates after the mass leaves. The lighter the object, the more the spring oscillates after the object leaves, which means clearly that in one case you got most of the energy into the object, in the other case you didn't. Okay, and so any experiment, we're using a spring to launch cars, for example, and you're putting different masses on them, it's completely corrupt as an experiment, because you haven't accounted for the fact that, yes, you're thinking the spring is going to give the same energy. You compressed it the same amount, therefore it's the same energy. But it won't be the same energy. You put heavy carts and push them apart, more of the spring's energy gets into the carts. You put light things, less of the energy gets into the carts. So it's very deceptive. I could talk about angular rotation of the wheels too. Another thing that needs to be accounted for when you're doing cart experiments, and they don't account for it at all. Ever. Not a single case do they concede that, oh, there's angular rotation in the wheels, and that doesn't show as linear momentum. That's like a flywheel. 4 wheels on the cart are like little flywheels, and they're not showing you the linear energy. They're not showing their energy as linear in terms of linear motion, because it's circular, and it only shows up when they hit a surface. When they hit a surface, the round rotation energy turns into one direction energy. Okay, and so then it's added to its energy. The flywheel stops. What stopped the flywheel, all of that angular momentum goes into the force of the cart. So it's very deceptive, because you could measure the mass and the velocity of the cart, but there's hidden energy in the wheels. So when the cart's going very fast, it has more hidden energy in the wheels spinning. When it's going very slow, there's very little energy hidden in the wheels. So another variable that makes a huge difference and not accounted for at all in any experiment I've ever seen done with the little rolling carts. Okay, not a single person ever explained either of those defects. The fact that springs have a defect and angular rotation matters. Momentum. All right, so there's another dopey video. Let me clean that little bit off the board. All right, lesson 2. Okay, so there's people who try to make videos, debunking and trying to say this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And so there's an idiot doing a video where he's going to rotate a lever. So it starts off, here's the fulcrum, and it's going to swing and then oscillate. So he's using gravity to initiate the action. So he's not hitting it with a constant force or something like that. He's allowing gravity to create the initial motion. All right, and so he's making the claim, okay, that these two configurations, which are, it's just obviously, these are two completely different. There's nothing in my argument that he's debunking because I never claimed otherwise. So he's got two levers. In one situation, he puts the mass here. Okay, say a 1 pound. We'll just use that, or 1 ounce. All right, and then in the next case, didn't really need to do that. Yeah, that wasn't my intention. He takes the same masses and puts them out here. And then he claims that it's some big surprise and it's a big proof against me because this one's harder to move. Well, of course it's harder to move. So there's been no video he's debunking of mine because, of course, I've used this example of the wheel where, you know, if I put the mass in here, it's got less momentum than if you put the mass out here. And that's just a duh. So if you make a flywheel that's really heavy on the outside and light on the inside, and you make one that's really heavy on the inside and light on the outside, of course they'll store very different amounts of energy as they're rotating. The one with the energy on the outside is going to store at the same velocity, is going to have much more momentum than the one where the mass is on the inside moving very slowly. So of course it takes less energy to spin them, and they will produce more energy if they're spinning the same amount. So it doesn't debunk anything I've said. And of course the experiment he won't do, okay, just to prove the point, is the proof that I can put the one mass here and I can put a half mass, you know, over here, and that will rotate perfectly, and it will in fact demonstrate, this is the bearing, that these are the same energies. And I could have two of these, or I can have two of those, and it'll be exactly the same amount of energy in that flywheel. So if I put two ones here, it'll be the same as two halves here. And those two wheels will spin the same when you put the same energy into them. They will feel the same when you turn them. All of that will be true. So it's just another one of these sham arguments. They don't pay any attention to the real arguments in the video, and then they pretend that they're proving something, that somehow they're proving kinetic energy by pointing out something I never stated as an argument. All right. So it's just garbage. But that's human beings. Mostly garbage. And it's getting more and more obvious every day. Oh, jeez. Anyway, more than half the people are suspect, you know, as having any character or intelligence. All right, so I'll go to comments, I guess. Yeah, I got my 2 lessons in. Good enough. As is common on YouTube. Well, it's not even that common, but you know, there's just all these little quirks of fate, and you know, you have to get lucky and all that kind of crap. You know, another one of my videos. So the first video got 1,000 views, and this other one, Steve Mould and Minute Physics say Archimedes was wrong. That one now has gotten almost 1,000 views, so they gave it exposure today for some reason. So I don't even know why. It's like the second day it was up or something. So it doesn't make any sense. I guess it's just random that videos get shoved into the stream and get a little bit extra viewership, which is nice, but you know, there's just no rhyme or reason to it, which is irritating. Life, you know, plane crashes. Anyway, smart people fucking suck at explaining things in a way that adheres to reason for idiots like me. FML, I don't know what that means, but whatever. If this script had been better fleshed out, so I'm not going to argue with you, but fuck you, okay? I mean, each video, I start by explaining a specific point, and I draw you the goddamn picture. All right, I don't need to flesh anything out. The assholes are saying momentum isn't conserved. That, for a physicist, should all of a sudden boom, you know, a little thing pops up on their head and says, what? How the fuck can you say that? Okay, because conservation of momentum is supposed to be a universal law, that nowhere is momentum destroyed. You can't create it, you can't destroy it. It's a fundamental principle. And they're mushing it all over the place, okay? And it's just that simple. All right. And organize. I think you have a bunch of valid arguments intermingled. They're not intermingled. They're all valid points. And if you have something to critique, you should just quote it. So if you want to quote something stupid, like one little off sentence or something, go ahead. Just show that you're a nitpicking fucktard. But don't bother me with this crap. Oh, brother. Okay, in which the other stuff that might not be so valid. Yeah, well, LOL. Fuck you. Okay, if you can't articulate any of it, you can't explain what you're claiming might be invalid, then what's the point of commenting? All right. Enjoy these types of observations by others. Well, I'm not here for your enjoyment, jackass. It's just a simple truth, okay? The truth does matter. Science is supposed to be about the truth, and clearly they don't give a shit. And that should bug the fuck out of you. It should really bother you that I'm demonstrating to you clearly that they couldn't care less, that it is in fact just a dogmatic religion. They'll tell people what you must believe. These 115 people or whatever, they're going to tell you what a quark is, and they're going to tell you what everything is and how everything works, and you're just supposed to, you know, sup on that slop. All right? Not because you understand, but because you trust. You have faith, okay, in the dorks. And I'm proving it to you right here. In every one of these videos, I'm proving the guy is a hypocritical dork. Okay, he pretends he knows something, and these guys, they don't know shit. All right, they spend a couple of weeks reading Wikipedia pages and bullshit, and then make their idiotic assertions. I mean, you know, I saw somebody played a clip of Veritasium where he's gushing over how brilliant Elon Musk is. Amazingly nonsensical. How anybody could be impressed by that frickin'... He actually did call him, though, an entrepreneur. So a scientist who talks about entrepreneurs. Oh, again, you know... you could just wallow in the irony. You know, I mean, there's so many great scientists, you know, and they invented things, like the guy who really invented the radio, frankly. I mean, the guy who figured out the whole crystal part, the whole part about, you know, how it works, and he didn't patent any of it. Because he was a scientist, for fuck's sake. Yeah, well, anyway. I mean, fuck you. What do you want me to say to this shit? Yeah, entertain me. Fuck you. You know. Observation by others in the scientific presentation community. Yeah, well, I'm certainly not part of that community. No commercials here, okay? I'm not going to be selling any products in the middle of this fucking video. Oh, science presenters. Liars, shysters, money-grubbing, you know, cash whores. All right. If you have a point, you certainly fail at making it. So I'm just going to argue. I made 2 points in the beginning of this video, okay, on 2 subjects. They're perfectly valid points. Well, there's actually 3 because the angular momentum was in there also. So fuck you again. Okay. You don't have a counter argument, do you? No, you don't. Because you don't understand any of the physics, you dumb fuck. All right, just going garump, so that didn't happen. YouTube video's bad. Okay, I mean, that's not what happened, Brandon. So go find this asshole, Brendan Hampston. You know, go find this fucker. Piss on his grave. And he's not dead. You know, piss on something else. Oh, it's relatives. And then doing some wishy-washy sums, or whatever that means, that may or may not be connected to material, isn't how you do this. No, I've done it, okay, over and over again, and it's demonstrated to be a truth. So go ahead, say Professor Lewin was stupid for saying momentum must be conserved. Just say he was stupid. He's an idiot. What is an MIT professor? Yeah, fuck him. Here, go ahead. Just make an assertion of some kind, you fucking lame piece of shit. Oh, god damn. Learn to write a coherent argument. I don't write my arguments. I make them. I draw them. Yes, right. So go ahead. Let's go find Einstein's writings, right? Einstein's writings fit in a thimble, jackass. Don't mumble for minutes on end about these people are terrible without getting to the point. Okay, I'm just going to, right now, I'm just going to block you, okay? Because it's just idiotic. The point's all over the fucking video. The whole video is an argument on the point. I mean, fuck. God, could you be more dishonest? No, it's not possible to be more dishonest than Brandon. Or whatever his fucking name was. Oh. Just amazing. All right, 0.48. Mechanical advantage is a measure of force amplification. So he thinks you can amplify the force. He thinks there's some way you can make the force bigger. So Newton said, 1 unit of force, 1 unit of velocity. 2 units of force, 2 units of velocity. Clearly, he wasn't talking about force as being force this way versus force that way, or force in some measure. It was an absolute quantity, like a quantity of motion, like a clump of momentum. All right, so your whole concept is alien to me. I can't even understand what you're talking about. It's so nonsensical. Because the simple fact is the universe runs on mv. It's even in your idiotic equation. All right, big M's, little V's, big V's, little M's. All right, there's no amplification. There's just a rearrangement of mass and velocity. Just like you can rearrange voltage and amperage to create wattage. Same fucking thing. Dumbass. Okay. Amplification achieved by a tool, a lever. It's by definition how levers work. So what is the definition of how levers work is 1 mass, 1 velocity, half mass, twice the distance, twice the velocity. That's the law of the lever, jackass. And he's saying it doesn't work. The guy I'm arguing in the video. Yeah, that guy says, no, it's 1.4, not twice. And in the case of a 4-to-1 relationship, half the momentum is lost. I remember learning about mechanical advantage in like the 3rd grade. And so I asked the simple question, did you learn about conservation of momentum? I won't get an answer, right? Stephen Mould is directly arguing that levers do not conserve momentum, that the law of the lever doesn't work. It's clearly his argument, for fuck's sake. All right, draft science. Stephen Mould, okay, he's repeating what I said. Yes, they do not conserve momentum. So this moron is actually making my argument for me. So he's saying, yes, it's exactly true. We don't have to conserve momentum. I can destroy momentum in the universe. He has a machine that can do that. But the F1, M1, F2, M2. So again, this makes no sense. Obviously, it's twice the force, twice the velocity. Did you hear what I just quoted of Newton? Right under the second law, Newton says clearly, twice the force, twice the velocity. 3 times the force, 3 times the velocity. So what he's really just saying is force is velocity. Force times mass equals force times mass. Duh. And the force is velocity. Velocity times mass equals velocity times mass. Yes, exactly what I'm arguing, moron. God damn, these people are so stupid. Let's see, is this the same? Oh, okay, so the asshole does respond. If the half mass is 2 distances only going 1.4 the velocity, how is the formula validated? So we haven't got a response to that yet. Obviously, 1.4 is not 2. Yeah, it's not even really close to 2, frankly. It's really far away from 2. Okay. This moron says, at energy, whatever that is always conserved. It doesn't mean anything. Energy is always conserved. That means kinetic energy Or momentum. What do you mean by energy? So when I say energy, I always mean momentum, frankly. I can't help it. So I have to keep forcing myself to say kinetic energy, because it's such a different thing than what I understand energy to be, which is force, momentum, weight, heat, all of those things. Momentum, not so much. So again, there's no physics teacher teaches that. So I'm just saying, could you please link me to any college physics lecturer who makes that claim? Okay, that momentum isn't conserved. So Professor Lewin, I could play the quote. God damn it. I mean, really, maybe I should. Over again? I should just see if it's here. No, I don't have it convenient. So anyway, so again, Professor Lewin looks right into the camera and says, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or the other, but nature can't finagle momentum. So he's saying exactly the opposite of what you're saying. So why don't you post comments on Professor Lewin's video explaining to him that, no, momentum doesn't have to be conserved. You don't have to, if there's some momentum missing, you don't have to explain where it is, because you could just poof it away. A lever is not a closed system, so this is just, it's just a waste of time. As there is force acting on the fulcrum from outside the system. So what a pile of nonsense. All right, so I don't know what do I do with somebody this stupid? I mean, is there any point? All right, well, we'll see. I'll give him one more chance to say something rational that doesn't sound like you're living in some kind of, Plutoverse or something, or, Venus, or, I mean, you're on another planet, right? You have a whole different physics or something in your world. You have some sort of dimensional thing going on, right? Yeah, because you're not even anywhere close to their argument. I'm arguing with conventional physics. I'm not arguing with your fucking wacky fucking theory, whatever the fuck it is. All right, you are misunderstanding his argument. So it's a lie. I'm perfectly understood the argument. Obviously, you're the dupes who have misunderstood. You're not even clever enough to figure out that the Minute Physics clip basically said, yes, pulleys conserve momentum. You can't miss it, okay? It's in the icon of this video. You can't miss. That's exactly what he's saying. 10 newtons of force, 10 newtons of force. In one case, I get one mass moving this much. In the other case, I get a half mass moving twice as much. You can't miss it, fucker. Okay. He's not contesting any known equations in physics. So again, he's contesting conservation of momentum. Damn, how dumb can you people be? He's demonstrating how our intuition about this problem is poor. No, his intuition is poor. There was nothing wrong with my intuition. I perfectly understood that, oh yeah, if I put the mass out here, it's got to move faster. If I put the mouse in here, it's got to move slower. I could figure that out. No problem. For example, I mean, I know that if there's something that weighs half as much, I'm going to probably be able to throw it twice as fast. I understand that. For example, his experiment with the wooden levers is definitely not perfect. Well, it's more than not perfect. I mean, it has glaring and significant misunderstood variables, unaccounted for variables. But the fact that you argue that they are not feeling the weight of the objects shows you have completely missed the point of the experiment. No, I haven't missed it at all. And I pointed out the fact that you're not feeling their weight, okay? The lever only can feel their weight here. A half mass can only weigh as much as a full mass here, okay, out here. It can't do it down here because the weight on the bearings are different for the two objects. One actually weighs, let's say, 4 times as much as the other one. One lever weighs twice as much, let's say, than the other lever, if you add up the lever and the weight. They're clearly not the same thing unless you do put them in a balance of gravity. Idiot. Okay. For example, wooden levers. Okay. Not feeling the weight of the objects. That shows that you have a completely missed the point of the experiment. In fact, you are right that levers are vertical for exactly this reason. Horizontal, you mean, right? Remember, we are trying to measure the amount of force required to accelerate the masses in an ideal physical environment. Well, the ideal physical environment is to have the masses doing the opposite thing in gravity. That's pretty ideal, because that's going to be a balance. I encourage you to set up an experiment. I encourage you to go to hell. Look, they have 350 years to produce some experimental evidence. Again, I could just say Mythbusters over and over again. So they did car crashes, 100 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, twice the crushing. Okay, so until you show up with some piece of evidence, right? So show me, link me to evidence, or I'll just block you. How about that, fucker? So if you don't link to a piece of evidence defending what you're saying, then I'll just block you, okay? Because this is bullshit. The math is solid, agrees with Steve here. You're just a liar, okay? The math is absolute rubbish, and it never gets a right answer. It won't land you on the moon. It can't be collected in a ballistic pendulum. It doesn't work with hydraulics. It doesn't work with gears. It doesn't work with levers. It doesn't work with a single fucking thing. And until you show me a lever that only goes, where the half mass only goes 1.4, or show me pulleys where the half mass only goes 1.4, you're just a lying sack of shit. So produce a piece of evidence or fuck you. Another guy that needs to be pissed on. Lying. You're just a liar. Yeah. Let's see. Your assessment of the practical experiment of weighing sticks is so wrong. Of wiggling sticks. It wasn't my idea to wiggle them. Angle of the camera to the stick is different for each of the sticks. Yeah, I already said that in my video, okay? So another pointless argument. I mean, it's really just so off the subject. I really should just block him. All right, I'll read a little more. The perceived distance in pixels is totally irrelevant. I mean, fuck you. This isn't even close to the argument. The argument is, do I actually have to post it? I mean, do I actually have to post it to you and ask you the simple question, do levers conserve momentum? Yes or no? And if you say no, I'm automatically going to say flat earther, because that's just not true. They have to conserve momentum. That's the law of the lever. All right. But levers don't conserve momentum, question mark. Now, why are you asking me these questions? I mean, I'm plainly stating the argument, and you're going to ask me the question? I mean, you'd watch the video at all? No, apparently not. So I responded, Steve's argument is that momentum decreases as the distance-mass differential increases. Half the mass at 2 distances will lose 30% of the momentum. Quarter mass at 4 distances will lose half the momentum. Basically, he's arguing that the law of the lever is wrong and doesn't work. And then this idiot does exactly the same thing I just pointed out. Force 1, distance 1. Force 2, distance 2. Well, the force is essentially an increase in velocity. So unless you want to assert that Newton was wrong to say 1 unit of force, 1 unit of velocity, 2 units of force, 2 units of velocity, and he even went to the point of saying 3 units of force, 3 units of velocity. He made it really clear. Oh, amazing. Is there a point in reading this? Now, look at this crap. So this idiot thinks levers don't conserve momentum. Here he is, 1.4 again. Amazing. So the pulley isn't doing 1.4. Do you get that part? I mean, do I have to type that to you actually and say, did you actually see the minute video part where he's basically saying that, yes, it's 2 to 1. Twice the velocity for the half mass, 1 velocity for the full mass. He's basically asserting that's the law of the lever. And then Mouldy comes back with, no, they are there. Square root of 2. No, the guy just proved it wasn't the square root of 2. That's just amazing. All right. There is possibility that I misunderstand what you seem really a chill guy. Yeah, well, whatever. Fuck you. But are you saying that conservation of kinetic energy is idiotic? It's never conserved. The ballistic pendulum, right? The bullet flies in. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether it's a bullet or a frog. I could have very low amounts of kinetic energy, and the ballistic pendulum still fails catastrophically to collect the kinetic energy. So almost anything I put into the much heavier mass, I will lose almost all of the kinetic energy. So in the case of the bullet, it's 99.94%. 99.94% of the kinetic energy is gone. Okay? And this asshole is going to tell me how, well, it's proven that it's conserved. Proven by no experiment ever conducted on planet Earth. All right. So I just laughed at. Yeah. But momentum conservation does not. And I just LOL'd that. All right, so he says, because here, 9, I'm not going to time codes, retard. You are saying that 2x the distance and 1/2 the ball and 1/2 and will accelerate 2x the speed. Yes, I'm saying that half the weight means it's going to go twice as fast. That's the fucking truth. Oh, amazing. Let's see, is there a single video of yours that isn't an hour-long rant about the dude making his own interesting content? So this is about making interesting content. It's not about science and the truth. So there's no argument to be actually had here, right? Because we know that levers both conserve momentum and conserve kinetic energy, even though it's an absolute fact that they don't, but we'll just say it anyway because it's entertaining and fun. That makes interesting content. Being a dualist, okay, and saying completely contrary things is part of human fun. Humans love the fun of just making shit up. That isn't true. Oh, it's just so amazing. All right. He may be incorrect in his claims. And that's not a problem. A guy gets 1 million views, is probably talking to, half his audience might be under 20, a third of it or something. And he's filling their little fucking pus brains full of, a bunch of coronavirus. Oh, yet honestly, I don't even care if he is. Okay, well then I guess I'm going to block you because this is too idiotic. I'm not even going to read this comment. It's just too stupid. I do care. Do you get it? I care that the truth wins. That humanity shows its true nature of preserving its intelligence, revering its intelligence, appreciating how much has been paid for it. Millions of years of brutal evolution to get to this point where we can think. And to be sitting there defending liars and shysters and bullshitters makes you the scuzzy of the scuzz. I mean, you can't get it any worse that would hurt my feelings, okay? As bad as something can happen to you, I mean, I can just wish there was a God so I could fucking request that, yes, God, go ahead, torture me for an extra year or two as long as you nail this fucker. Because this is what the human race doesn't need. Fuck you. Get what you deserve, you piece of shit. I don't care if he's right or wrong. Oh, fuck. I'm not sure you even... yeah, well, make sure this is the white one. I'm not sure what your argument is, honestly. So right in the title it says, Stephen Mould and Minute Physics say Archimedes was wrong. That the law of the lever doesn't work. Archimedes was wrong. That's what he's saying. If Archimedes had a lever long enough, they're saying he would lose all the momentum and he wouldn't be able to move the earth because he would lose all the momentum. All right. Honestly, I think you brought up several different laws of physics but never made a point. Okay, well, you know what? Just block him, Gary. I mean, too fucking ridiculously stupid. All right. If you are going to say that you didn't... if you're going to say they didn't reference experimental evidence, you need to make that verifiable. So this one's kind of funny. Either play the whole video for us or just link it in the description. So obviously I linked him to the fact that, yeah, I did play the whole video, fucker. Oh, God, these people are just such scum. I do not have enough time to really sit down and watch your video. So I should just block him, right? I mean, what's the point of this? I'm going to comment on something I'm not even willing to watch. I mean, it's just... this is humanity. This is the kind of bullshit these people pull. And you're just saying, well, what the fuck? I'm not going to bother reading the driving manual. I don't, rules, smools. I'm not going to qualify anything I do. I'm just going to be a fucking ignorant turd. Oh, let's see. But I read all the questions in the description and can definitely conclude that you are confused about energy and force. Well, that's just amazing. They're simple questions, okay? Whether I'm confused doesn't matter. You answer the questions, okay? So do you think calculating momentum landed us on the moon, or do you think calculating kinetic energy landed on the moon? Answer the question, you lame piece of shit. Applying the wrong formula, I guess, can sit down and talk about the real problem. Applied the wrong formula. I don't know what that means. I guess I can sit down and talk about the real problem about science. Money, alarm, alarm. Amen, amen. No, you're the one doing that. But sadly, kinetic energy is not one of them. I don't even know what that could possibly mean. So he actually thinks, okay, that to go through all the examples. He actually thinks that the bullet has 1,000 times more energy than the recoiling gun. And that we can just take the bullet and go half the speed of the bullet, and then we can go a quarter of the speed. We can just keep reducing until we get back to 2 to 1. And he just says it doesn't happen. Even though a balance proves it happens. I mean, it's just such a religion. You're just proving my point. You're just a fucking God botherer. You have no interest in the truth. Why didn't you give me the choice to block this fucker? What the hell is that? Weird. Oh, I don't want that. What does it give these stupid fucking... What does it do that for? I don't want suggestions. Fuck him in the ass. I mean, if he gave me the fuck him in the ass suggestion, or fart in his direction, if I could get Google to fart in his direction, well, that might be a nice option. Oh, fuck. Let's see. Why am I getting dumbass flat earth recommendations? So again, they can't deal with the argument. It says right in the video, Archimedes was wrong. Do you think Archimedes was wrong about how levers work? Instead of answering the question, he does this shit. Holy fuck, this is the stupidest shit. Yeah, I could type that on any video on the internet and prove myself to be an idiot. Oh, this guy. Yeah, this is a gamer. Okay, this is a guy who plays video games. That's his life. So, yeah, not even close to something that should have the right to comment on a video, frankly. We really should apportion citizenship. There really should be merit pay, so to speak. Okay, the experiment you have done don't matter because they don't show us anything new. So again, it's just a lie that it's doesn't demonstrate the fallibility of their experiments in the first case. The fact that these people are ignorant about how springs work. Anyway, everyone agrees on the lever oscillates. The question is what that tells us, and that's exactly what I demonstrated in this video. I pointed out that how the lever works, that it's just a little tiny bit of mass of the lever itself that moves from one side of the fulcrum to the other side of the fulcrum as it oscillates. So as it starts to move up this way, more mass is going up on this side, which means it's getting heavier. And that's what brings it back down again. So that's why it balances. Because with every motion, it's adding mass in the contrary direction, forcing it back down again. And so the only thing the only energy in the system is that little bit of mass switching sides. So if you want more energy in your oscillator, then you have to have a heavier lever. All right. So let's see. The question is what that tells us. In elastic, so now this is a waste of time, this elastic collision crap. The two different mass objects is a simple case. There's no simple cases. They're all got all kinds of variables. Objects is a simple case where there is a clear disagreement on the results. Yeah, and you don't have any evidence. I'm sure you have the money. So again, this is just a waste of my time. look, it's not my obligation to prove your God doesn't exist. It's your obligation to prove he does. And you haven't come anywhere close to that. You have an extraordinary claim and you produce not even ordinary evidence. So fuck you. All right. Oh, a long one here. Let's see. If I'm in space and I throw a 2-liter bottle, so this is the simple argument that if I'm in space and I throw, a small mass at a high velocity, or I throw a heavy mass at a low velocity, which one moves me? Do I get moved by the kinetic energy, or does the third law only pay attention to my momentum? And I think it's clear that NASA made it clear that the only thing that matters is the momentum. The kinetic energy will not give you an equal and opposite reaction. All right, you're confusing momentum with kinetic energy. There's nothing to confuse. I believe in something real. You believe in something fake. Okay, there's no such thing as kinetic energy. It never does work. I'm asking you to show me one experiment where you collect the kinetic energy. Just show me one. Okay, which are two separate concepts. There's definitions of the same thing, the meaning of motion in the universe. They both have the same definition. What does it mean when something's moving in the universe? This is such a, well, let's see what he says. When you throw 2 kilogram bottle 1 mile an hour and 2 grains dime at 1,000, both impact the same momentum. Both impart the same momentum, exactly. And so they both produce exactly the same motion in the spaceship. So one of them has 1,000 times more energy, yet they produce the same opposite reaction. And that makes sense to you. Well, it makes no sense to me. Resulting in the same recoil or thrust. However, kinetic energy is calculated at 1/2 mass, meaning the dime actually has much. Again, I'm just proving. I'm asking you to show me actually proving that. So just take the 10-ton train, the 10-mass train going 5 and the 5-mass train going 10, and then explain to me, if I have a tug of war, how the one with twice as much energy doesn't win. Well, why doesn't it win? Can you do that? Can you show me the experiment where the one with more energy wins the tug of war? No, you can't. Because it doesn't happen. Amazing. This doesn't disprove kinetic energy. Instead, it highlights that momentum and kinetic energy describe different properties. There's no different property. They're both described. They're both actually defined as the same thing, the meaning of motion in the universe. Momentum relates to motion's effect, like recoil. What is the recoil but an opposite reaction in the sense that it's demonstrating what kind of energy you applied? You can't have an opposite recoil that's supposed to be more or less. It has to be the same amount of energy. Anyway, it relates to the energy of motion. So again, that's exactly what momentum is. It's the energy of motion. Your argument mixes these two. Oh, fuck it. This is such drivel. Let's see, what experiment shows the 2 kilogram bottle at 1 mile an hour and a 2-liter thrown has a 1 to 1,000 energy ratio? This is some guy wearing a knit hat, knit hat guy. What experiment shows that a 2 kilogram bottle thrown at 1 mile an hour and a 2 grain dime thrown 2 gram thrown at 1,000 miles an hour has a 1 to 1,000 energy ratio? So at least, you should just ask him to just show us the dime doing 1,000 times more work. That's it. Show us one experiment where the dime does 1,000 times more work. They're claiming it has the capacity to do 1,000 times more work. Show me an experiment where it does 10 times the work. So I'll make it easy for you. All right? You don't even have to show me 1,000. Just show me the dime doing 10 times the work. Or maybe 100, right? If you were going to be fair, yes, fairness would say, just show me the dime doing 100 times the work. The point is there's not a fucking experiment ever conducted that shows the dime ever doing any more work. That's the whole point, you fuck. And you're claiming it. You're saying it overtly. I must believe this crap that you believe in for no good reason. Because you've never seen it either. I mean, God, you people are so despicable. All right. God, I hate this planet. Just hate it. So this asshole, I don't know why he said this shit. Archimedes is central to flat Earth physics. Obviously, Archimedes, it's 2,000 years ago. Obviously, he didn't really understand gravity. I mean, come on. You know, what could he do but just guess? And, you know, and then making the association between the moon and the other planets and figuring out that they're all falling towards the sun. I mean, all of that. He couldn't do any of that stuff. Okay, look, he's pretty good. He did a lot of, figured out lots of different kinds of irrigation. Did a lot of good stuff. But yeah, gravity wasn't his subject, you fucking moron. Oh, god damn. I just hate people. Just hate them. I mean, it's just lame to saddle Archimedes with that. The argument being made was he wrong about levers. That's the thing you're supposed to argue, is point out how Archimedes was wrong about levers. He's the one that invented the law of the lever. Galileo improved it, so did Newton. They even made compound levers and explained how, all you do is add the numbers. Multiply 3 times 2 or 2 times 3. And as long as it's the same, then you have the same force on both sides. It's just mv times mv, and that's it. All right. So show me a single case where a lever doesn't produce mv and mv. Okay, equal mvs. Steve Mould didn't do the experiment, obviously. He didn't show us 1.4. He just claimed it. All right. Jesus. Oh, God. It's just really depressing, right? Because, part of the argument is will the human race ever grow up? Improve? Because obviously the standards are getting lower and lower. I mean, intelligence is going down. I mean, literacy is going down. The whole thing's down. And you sort of might think that, well, maybe someday it'll, that'll reverse, like global warming. We'll go back to where we were, and you hope there's some mechanism. But the only mechanism that's really possible is there has to be a huge attrition. You have to just some kind of natural disaster, and the only thing that survives are people who have a little tiny bit of competence in figuring out how to not drink piss, some kind of thing like that. I don't know, because it just does look bleak. Acquiring knowledge it's not entertaining. In most cases, it really just isn't. I mean, some things I think are very interesting. I love watching. So, if somebody would have explained to me when I was a kid about springs and how there's a catch, and that, the spring has a maximum speed and it's a real limitation and it can't really put energy into things that are really light, not the same amount of energy, I would have found that very interesting, because it's not complicated. It's not math. It's not any of that shit. It's just a simple explanation. So there's a lot of, and I love watching nature shows, and you learn this and you learn that, and why hooves have, it's 2 fingers. They're really, they're, lots of things are really interesting to find out how that evolved, or that thing happened, or this thing happened. So, so there's a class of knowledge that's easy, and there's a class of knowledge that's a pain in the ass. But you need some of both, and these assholes obviously just couldn't. They're not going to, if it isn't fun, they're not going to do it. They're not curious enough. And they're satisfied with a religion. Where, I have to say, I instinctively found religion useless. I mean, just absolute. That's when I first learned that humans are lying sacks of shit. You're just saying, that's a Santa story. I mean, it's sillier than Easter bunnies. What are you trying to fool me? You think I'm an idiot? Come on, too stupid. And you assholes can't figure out that it's really too stupid to say that somehow something that creates a perfect balance and basically proves that one mass going one velocity is the same as a half mass going two velocity, and it works perfectly, and it makes perfectly good sense. And you're saying, no, my religion says that can't happen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like your religion saying human beings lived with the dinosaurs. I mean, it's just too fucking stupid. Unacceptable. Alright, so enough of a rant. Yeah, we're going to hit an hour. Bingo. Yeah, okay, so we made it just for the guy who was complaining. And he's basically going to argue that there was no content in this video. There was no subjects, and there was no arguments, and there was no reasoning, and there was no logic, and all of it has no value because we shouldn't be even talking about this, because we should just be praying to the holy V squared. Yeah. Let's just make a big giant V squared on a mountain somewhere, and we could all pilgrimage to it and bow to it. Because it makes so much fucking sense. I mean, square velocity. Yes, I have a square of velocity. And then someday maybe we can make the magical, maybe somebody can draw or abstraction, create a sculpture of the cube of velocity. And it'll all make sense to you. And yes, it'll make no sense to me. So, fuck you morons.